Hey there, traders, and welcome back for episode number 130 from the StockBandit.tv. It is Sunday. It is time to take a look at the major averages and understand some key levels to keep in mind as we head into a brand new week of trading. We know that's going to influence how most individual stocks move, so that's where our week begins. Now, last week was a really interesting week. We started off with a massive gap to the upside. If you'll recall, for the NASDAQ, it opened right around here, and that was about a 100-point gap for the NASDAQ to the upside on Monday morning on the heels of positive, financial relief news out of Europe. Now, the Dow gapped about 400 points, the S&P gapped about 50 points, so they were major gaps. We also saw that strength built upon into Wednesday's close, and actually even Thursday early we saw some upside there, but we finished very poorly. And then, of course, gapped down and continued lower on Friday. So, what started off as a very positive week actually was never built upon. From the open of the week to the close of the week, we actually finished negative, despite the fact that on a Friday to Friday comparison, the indices were positive. So, really interesting situation that we're in right now. We broke down very hard from this 2450 level. That was the low end of this trading range for the NASDAQ. And we approached that last week, but we never could touch it or really threaten it. We got pretty close there, but never did push through it. So that former support has now turned into resistance, and we're now seeing price retreat from that and start heading lower. Now, the next level to the downside that I'm watching for this index, for the NASDAQ, is the prior Friday's close. Again, that's where the gap began. Remember that a gap is a close to open comparison. So it's not necessarily just this small area right here on the chart. It's this area from the close of Friday to the open of last Monday. So, substantial gap there, which has only been partially filled. And that goes all the way down to right in here, which is about the 2265 level. So I'm going to be watching that for the NASDAQ. If that level is approached to the downside, we may see it start to get a little bit defended. But at the moment, if anything, it looks like the market has peaked right up here during April, and we have now just created what looks to be a lower high on the daily chart. So that is what needs to take place for a true change of character for the market. We saw a few weeks back this rising trend line get broken that started from the February low and went all the way up here into April. That trend line break right there was not the change of trend. It was a change of pace for the trend. A trend is a series of lower highs and lower lows, or higher highs and higher lows, like we were seeing there for several weeks or a couple of months there. In fact, now it looks like the trend is starting to turn lower, and this is a spot to exercise extreme caution on the long side. For the S&P 500, this index broke down right in here from the 1181 level, and we bounced up and got close to that last week. We got to about the 1173 level, but we never could challenge or push through that 1180. So price is again turning lower here and starting to head back down. The next spot that I'm watching is the prior Friday's close. That's the lowest close of this correction since we peaked back here in April. And so that Friday's close for the S&P 500 is the 1110 level. So we've got a little bit of room there to tumble further before that level is met, and that level may not even be respected. So we could also bounce here. We've pulled back pretty sharply here in the last two sessions, but for the time being, I'm going to be operating with the assumption that this right here has just been a lower high on the charts, and until it's cleared again, all caution should be exercised when trading on the long side. And I think that that is something only to be used for very, very short-term time frames. It looks like this market's path of least resistance is changing to the downside. So let's see what this week brings with it. For the Dow, this index, same story, big V-shaped type bounce here, back up that was unable to reclaim this broken support level. 10,965 is about where that is. We're now heading back down. Next spot to be watching here is the prior Friday's close, 10,380. So we've got about, I don't know, 250 or 80 points there. So for the VIX, this is the volatility index. Let me get rid of volume bars here because this index does not have volume. But remember, this is the fear index, and it was in this downtrend for a very long time. We had lower highs, lower lows, and fear was just completely on the decline as the market prices were continuing to rally. Now, just recently, though, I pointed out that this thing had jumped up off of its lows, pulled back, and then, of course, rocketed higher here just 2 weeks ago. The highest close right there was about the 41 level. 40.95, I believe, is where that is. We have since pulled back. We held above this prior high, and so now that's serving as some support. And we're now seeing the VIX back on the rise. And so this points to elevated fear in the market, which means people are doing selling at this point. They're raising cash in a market where they're concerned that lower prices are coming along. And so this is something to certainly keep your eyes on. We've got plenty of room here to rally, even to challenge a week ago's highs. And of course, that could certainly be cleared as well. But we're now above the 30 level. Anything above 30, anything in really the 30 to 50 range is considered elevated for this index, and now it's on the move to the higher end, and so let's see where that carries. But a pretty interesting situation that we've got coming along in the week ahead. There is a lot of emotion in this market, and it's a market where you've got to stay on your toes and be very sharp and be very prepared to make trades if you're going to participate. Thanks again for joining me for this episode. I will be back soon with more trading videos, but in the meantime, trade like a bandit.